A very good evening to everyone watching. Thank you for joining us tonight on the agenda. My name is Toivo Njebela. Tonight on the platform we are joined by Dimbulukeni Nauyoma and Michael Saddam Amushelelo. They are activists who have been in the news for long this year. They were arrested in March. Nauyoma was granted bail soon afterwards. And Amushelelo only got bail on Thursday this week after 7 months of incarceration. Thank you, gentlemen. Jail beds. Can I call you jail beds because you're always there? But it's so good to see both of you, especially Mr. Amushelelo, who looks completely different. With a red mustache, the hair is different, and you have lost a lot of weight. So that whole thing of hunger strike was serious, or this was just from the general thought of being away from the world that we are living in?
No. The hunger strike was serious. I mean, there comes a point where you need to realize that your back is against the wall and you need to do something. As an activist, you obviously rely on the general public's goodwill to be able to support you, be there for you, and so forth. But when that support is not there and it's not forthcoming, and knowing very well that you are sitting in prison for something that you have not done, obviously you become forced to do something for yourself. And unfortunately in prison, the only way that you are able to protest is by going on a hunger strike. So it's an inhumane form of self-torture that you need to embark upon yourself just to be able to make your voice heard. Unfortunately there, I can't take placards and start toy-toying and saying, please release me because your liberty is taken away, most of your fundamental rights are suppressed. So the only way is basically then to say, kill yourself if you want to let your voice be heard.
You look messy, my guy. I must put that in the record. You look messy, but welcome back.
Thank you.
The outcome of the court was announced on Thursday. The trial, it has been becoming clearer as the trial went on that the state's case was getting weaker and weaker. And thankfully the court seemed to have come to the same realization, and you were acquitted. Your reaction to that?
Well, it proves that what we have always been saying since the 21st of March, that we simply went to inform the aspiring protesters who gathered at Katatura Youth Complex to say that, look, we couldn't proceed on that Tuesday. We needed to return on the Fridays for us to carry out through that protest. And because the rule of law has been surpassed by the rule of men, and you have politicians who want to settle political scores using state machinery, it then happened the way it is. But what is more saddening and disheartening is that our country is now proven through that trial that our country is headed downhill. That even people who swore and took an oath to protect the integrity and the rule of law in this country can go and enter a court of law and lie. How do we trust people to investigate criminals in this country and get them found guilty when these people are simply just liars? And you have a PG who sits and analyzes dockets, and because of political influence decides to put a blind eye, like the witness we had yesterday, that this person simply cannot be able to see what the law says, how the strength of the state's case, and realize that this is seemingly a sham. There's nothing that you can proceed or get any, even if they were to find us guilty anyways. It's a fine. But is a fine worth keeping somebody in prison for 7 months?
For that long, What is your recollection of the events on the 21st of March 2023 leading to your arrest?
Toivo, on that particular day, remember we had written to the Namibian police that we intend on having a peaceful demonstration. Now, the Proclamation Act of 1989, AG 23, is quite clear you do not need to seek for permission. You just simply need to notify the police within 72 hours. And we had done that way before the 72 hours. But you know very well that for the last year, ever since the incident of Joseph Shikongo, I've been hammering that he needs to be held accountable for his actions. Now, obviously, the powers that be decided to say that because we chose the 21st of March to have that protest, they decided to say that no, you cannot have a march on the Day of Independence. But the reason why we chose 21st of March is, remember, our Independence Day is due to the Sharpeville massacre of 1960, which was on the 21st of March. And that's why we celebrate Independence Day on the 21st of March due to the Sharpeville massacre, where over 60 people were killed. Now, it was also symbolic for that reason that we said that the 21st of March is why we need to go and say that this is the masses. They have not yet eaten from the prosperity that was promised 33 years ago. We are still hungry. We are still languishing in poverty. We do not have opportunities for employment and all of this sorts of things. And it was basically a symbolic day for us to say that, can we as a nation take stock and account of how far we have come, and is it necessary for us to waste millions of dollars on a singular day event in order just for us to boast about things that we have not done?
Yeah.
And that is why we said, let us take that symbolic day as young people. And it was non-political. That we made sure of, to say that we do not care from which political party you belong to. Because whether you belong to political party B or C, if you are unemployed, you are unemployed.
Yeah.
And even the foot soldiers who are in the ruling party, they are also unemployed. And they were also part of the reason why we were standing up for them. So on the 21st of March, we simply went because we challenged the decision of Joseph Shikongo, which was irrational, which was stupid to call it as so, to say that this cannot be correct because we have already a proclamation that says that you do not seek permission. Remember, the Constitution already guarantees us those fundamental rights under Chapter 3, to say that people can protest peacefully as long as they do not bear arms. So we do not even need to tell the police, because it's our constitutional rights to go and protest.
No.
But he denied us, and then we said, let us quickly run to court, because the courts are supposed to adjudicate when things of this sort happen. Unfortunately, on that particular day, the judiciary, it seems to me, it is becoming a mockery. They decided that our case did not have any merits and did not warrant agency. But if people want to go protest on that particular day, how do you say that it's not an urgent matter?
Yeah.
And it was for that matter that it was dismissed. And here's the thing, the police then mistook that dismissal to say that apparently we violated a court order. The court simply said, you know what, this is your business.
It's not urgent.
It's not urgent. So the two parties, please go sort out your business. But they arrested us and also charged us apparently for violating a court order.
Yeah.
And that's why they eventually removed that from their charges, because they realized that these were all cooked up bogus charges.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we went to go inform the outcome to the people who had gathered at Katutura Youth Complex.
Yeah.
And when we got there, we found heavy police presence. But in their letter that they wrote to us, they said that unfortunately there is no manpower. And that is why, part of the reason why apparently we could not demonstrate on the 21st of March.
In fact, at court, through their lawyers, that is their defense. So the police is a lying establishment. They go to court, they say they don't have manpower. The journalists have these videos, and we can play them. Count the amount of Special Reserve Force cars were there, normal blue uniform, the amount of manpower that they had. Yeah. Seemingly, they couldn't want this protest to go through. Yeah. But they lied to court to say that they didn't have manpower. We must find avenues on how we can challenge those things. We can't have the police lying.
Yeah. So this, I mean, as things started falling apart, the version of the state disintegrating, then there were things like, there was violence. And a lot of people who were there, including journalists who were there, were saying, you know, we were there, we didn't really witness anything like that. There might have been some scuffles here and there, but really violence. And the witnesses of the state, who are police officers actually, this week during the trial seem to have vindicated your version that there was nothing of that nature, and if there were, it wasn't at your behest.
You see, it becomes very difficult to really, when you look at this trial, and when you hear the versions that have been put before court, and one, the facts are very clear. The police failed. Just number one, you know this thing about just giving people 5 minutes. They can't even answer where it comes from, what quantifies it. If we are 5,000 people at one gathering, how do we disappear or disperse in 5 minutes? So those things are not methodic. There's no formula, there's nothing. It's just you are training the Boers, then during a party, they say 5 minutes, let's carry over. So secondly, they failed to properly coordinate this disbursement of people. And as natural leaders of society, what is it that you are going to do? These young people are angry, these young people are disappointed, and you are saying that there is no protest, but we must come back for the protest. So it is very important for us to make sure that these people are properly channeled into their ways to go home. And well, these young people went all the way peacefully. No member of the public was harmed. No person who was driving their car in the road when they needed to cross a street to go on the ground was even threatened or anything happened. If anything, people jumped and screamed from their houses. Others even joined the people who were going home because they didn't know where people were going to. And it's Independence, public holiday, people don't know what to do. So it was an exercise for people to even just work on fitness. So then this thing about beating the police car with stones came. The facts remain that until we were picked up, there was no such thing as violence. In fact, the versions that are coming out now, it's not even the protesters who threw stones at the police. It's angry public members who were at that circle, who were saying, yeah, but why are you taking those guys if those guys didn't do anything?
So it was the aftermath of
yes, and in fact, it's a provocation of the police that went to the public.
Yeah.
That they just retaliated and the car happened to be probably in the way. Yeah. So you look at some of these things and you just say, but where is our state headed to?
I hear you. Saddam, I'm calling you Saddam. So the arrest took place, D and Ina Hengari spent a few days incarcerated. They eventually got bail. You didn't, but you were arrested from the same event on same charges, but somehow you were kept behind. Why? What went through your mind at that?
No, Toivo, it's clear that I've become a political prisoner in my own country. Now, here's the thing. When D got his bail, the magistrate put it on record that the state does not have a prima facie case. Now, you should bear in mind that I was with Dimbulukeni Nauyoma at all material times, meaning that if the state or the magistrate found that there was no prima facie in D, then that means that there can no be any evidence on me as well. Because he's accused number 1, I'm accused number 2, and Ina Hengari was accused number 3. But obviously I knew at this moment that the state machinery had kicked in, and then obviously they tried to then pin it on my many other political cases that I do have. Remember, I was charged in Walvis Bay for the ShopRite incident, where a young lady took her own life due to the oppressive nature of the white monopoly capital establishment. And then I was rearrested again for leading the demonstration for the city of Windhoek ward cleaners. And then obviously, and many other charges that I'm still facing.
Also the one of, what is that restaurant?
The Cafe Bistro. No, yes. That one, unfortunately, that was an arbitrary arrest. They never opened any charges. Yeah. But they had arrested me maliciously on that as well. So you can clearly see that this is them trying to silence me. Because for the last 7 months, this country has been quiet. I have not been hearing of any activities because it seems to me that I used to be the vocal one. And now they said, wait. Let us quickly put this boy into a shell and then let us take him out of society. And obviously, Shikongo is very scared because the pressure that I was mounting for him to be arrested, he knew very well to say that him and that's why he sent his lieutenants to basically make sure that arrest him, then we'll just cook up charges with the state. Imalwa is my friend. I'll just tell Imalwa to create whatever charges needs to be created, and then we keep him there and detain him to say that unfortunately he cannot be granted bail. But it clearly shows you that our judiciary has been captured. Yeah. Because I failed to get bail in the magistrate court. We took this matter up to the High Court, where Justice Shivute and Christian Philander also said that apparently that my case has no merits and was similarly dismissed. So it just shows you that these people said, okay, wait, we've kept him there enough, most probably has learned his lesson. And obviously the state did not have a case. And you saw how the state case fell apart. So from the get-go, there was no case. It was basically a matter of individuals using state apparatus to silence political people that they do not want them to continue talking. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Before we go for the break, Dimbulukeni, I mean, it's one thing to say that, let's assume, hypothetically, that the police chiefs were, they felt annoyed by Michael going to their headquarters and demanding the arrest of the police chief and whatnot. And you could say, okay, fine, if the bosses in the police informed and instructed their lower ranking officers to arrest him, and then might be, okay, fine, he get arrested, maybe spend the weekend in incarceration in the cells. I can understand that because it's one institution that is having this stranglehold on him, the police. But then when it seemed to cascade to other arms of government, now the courts seem to be also, I don't know, and I don't want to accuse the courts of conniving, but it didn't sound even to a layman like myself that there was any reason to deny the men bail or to keep you guys in those cells for the time that you were there. Does it scare you that actually we seem to have this coordinated strategy in government to sort of silence dissent?
Well, scaring is not, I'm not even scared about it. In fact, I'm worried about where the state of the country is headed to. Because these things, you hear them in Zimbabwe, these things you hear them in Nigeria, these things you hear them everywhere. But of late, SADC has become intrigued into this East-West African politics and how things are being done. But also, we can't take it for granted that these guys have not learned anything from the apartheid book. Because remember, they were young people who were fighting against an oppressive system of government. And they were rebels, fighting a government, fighting a state. So after they've taken over, they've then said, okay, what was the state doing to silence these dissenting voices? They are seemingly just exercising the same thing. And in the eyes of who is at the table, and there is a dissenting voice coming, is that this voice wants to disturb the law and order of what we want to achieve. And therefore, they just replicate what was happening. So there's no difference between the apartheid government and the SWAPO-led government today. Absolutely no difference in terms of administration of silencing people who have a contrary view towards what they want to do. So that is evident. They can't even say it's not possible. But fortunately, there are still glimpses of light in the names of Linus Samzala, people of integrity and ethics who swore to the Constitution of this republic to administer justice. You have the likes of Sergeant Ngede, for example, who says, look, my duty that day I drove my car is the one that was hit, but those guys are not the one who've hit my car. But you have control prosecutors who are then sanctioned by their boss to say, under section 171 of the Criminal Procedures Act, where a prosecutor just shows up at court and says, no, in this matter, we are opposing bail. They don't say why. If anything, they just say it's not in the interest of the public and the administration of justice. But what does it mean? Which public? Which administration of justice? Does this person have access to the investigative officer, key witnesses of the state? Is he going to influence in that aspect?
No.
So those issues must be put to test by magistrates. And we can't proceed with this nonsense of people just saying, no, we are opposing this person's bail.
Yeah, I hear you. We go for a break and then return for second half.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
The show continues. Michael, there was something that we read in the media, or I can't remember whether it was mainstream media, social media, but it doesn't matter. There was allegations that there was a day you were supposed to be brought to court for your appearance, and it didn't happen because police officers said they forgot that it was your day of appearance or something like that. What can you tell us about that?
Now, Toivo, these are delay tactics. Had I gone to court on the 12th of September, that simply means that by the 13th of September, I would have been acquitted. So what did they do? They said to themselves, you know what? Let's try and push it further to another month, or let's create new delay tactics. Now, on that particular day, I got dressed, I took my shower, and then I was basically ready to be picked up. I called my wife to say, no, it's now almost 9, but the police are not here. Can you ask the lawyers what's going on and things like that? And then later I realized it's about 12 o'clock and no one showed up. And in their excuse, they apparently lied, said that apparently they thought that I was supposed to be in the High Court and they'd driven me to the High Court. There is video footage at the Vintu Correctional Prison Facility. If we go now there, you will see that on the 12th of September, I was never booked out of prison and I never left the prison doors. So this was just basically another delay tactic by the police, and I know for a fact that Shukongo himself must have made the call to say that no, just make sure that on that particular day he does not show up so that at least he can stay in prison for yet another month. Because remember, had we not done the 174 and had we not succeeded with the section 174, I would have most probably only would have gotten judgment by next year, February or something of the sort. So that simply means that I would have stayed the whole year in prison, and they would have had enough time now to caucus and see what further charges can they cook up against us to silence our dissenting voices? So it's a pity that we as a country, when we boast about our vibrant democracy, when we boast about independent institutions, there are no such thing as independent institutions in this country. We must understand that there are people, remember, for as long as we have a system where the president and a few cabal of the Judicial Commission, Service Commission, appoint whoever it is that they wish to appoint, we will never have true justice, because if I'm the sitting president, I'll simply appoint Toivo and Dimbu and Greg and say, you are the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, and so forth. Yeah. And then what do? You protect our interests. And this is what is happening in this country. So our judiciary and the state has become a mockery. It's a laughing stock. We were once at the pinnacle of everything. And what has saddened me while I was in prison is that they no longer just want to silence social activists like us. They are even coming for the fourth estate, the media. And that is worrisome. You know, we always used to laugh when we hear people speak about countries such as Zimbabwe and all of these things. Namibia has become that. We are now a laughing stock in the world. We are no longer a democratic society. This is now becoming slow but surely a police state or a dictatorial state, because it's no longer about the rule of law but what men say.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question for you, Michael. Is it worth it, the lengthy incarcerations, the abandonment of the families, the abandonment of business? What makes you still want to be involved in stuff like this?
Toivo, when we remain silent, that's when evil takes over. And the evil has slowly but surely started to take over. And if we do not have individuals like Dimbulukeni Nauyoma who are willing to risk themselves to be at the picketing lines to fight for our masses, then unfortunately we are going to see a decay of our society. And unfortunately, because some of us do not want to see a decay of our society, we need to stand up. Yeah. I mean, I can have businesses that are flourishing, but if the state can at any time come and seize my assets, freeze my accounts, and do as they please, is that really a society that I want to be a part of? Is that really a country that I want to be a part of? So unfortunately, it's a great dissatisfaction to my family. It's a great disadvantage to them. But unfortunately, someone has to make these sacrifices. And if no one makes these sacrifices, then who is it that's going to stand up and fight this monster that's about to take over our society and basically want to make it their own? Remember, this is a society where we're supposed to all be equal. Yeah. But if you have an inspector general who has killed 3 people and his docket is apparently missing, and it's been now over 8 months or 9 months or 12 months that he has not appeared in a court to answer for this, what does that tell you? It tells you that our country is decaying slowly but surely. And these are matters that if some of us do not bring them to the fore, no one is going to.
I hear you. Dimbulukeni, is there other ways to pursue activism? Is there other ways to say exactly what you are saying, to pass on those messages, but just in a different format, given that the strategy that you've used so far, the physical presence strategy, has only gotten you actually arrested, physically attacked, and all these things?
You see, picketing line is the last resort of activism. So we've not just went to the picketing lines. We have tried other methods. When you see us going to the picketing line, you must know that we've explored conversations in terms of democratic, what do you call these peace talks, diplomacy and all those things. We've written letters, we've written emails, we've done phone calls. So you don't just wake up and say no because the unemployment rate of our country has hit 50%, we are now headed to the streets. No, no, no. There are processes that we've always channeled. There are processes of engagement. It's the arrogance of people who are in offices that sometimes lead to these ways of us being at the picketing line. But of course, it's also a wake-up call to society to realize that we are in a state in which we need to do things differently. For example, I want to give you two cases. One is the one that was withdrawn of the Chinatown. The police in the office of the Prosecutor General even wrote letters to journalists to submit video footage and become state witnesses in all those aspects. Threaten them, even subpoena them and threaten them that they will be thrown in jail if they don't accept these things. 21st of March, same journalists, present, video footage, everything. They don't go there, they keep quiet. They don't explore the same energy. So what does that tell you? It means that when they want to deal with you, they'll go throughout. But when they want to deal with you and they know that they are going to lose, they just say, let's not complicate matters worse. So we do engage and we do have conversations around these things. When we did Order with Me, for example, that's the Chinatown protest, what are the aftermath of that thing? NAMRA took an initiative to call everybody together and engaged both the young people who were doing Order with Me, the guys who are now clearing agents, and you realize that there was even people who were accusing one another, where people would eat up your hard-earned money and say, no, the things are with NAMRA, while the things have never been ordered. But there are also some things that were kept with NAMRA because the clearing agents ate up people's money, and those issues happen. So there is another review that is coming this year. So you begin to see that there are things that happen. You've seen that the government has created with this police and security cluster, we've created them as our employment agencies. Immediately after the 21st of March, what did you see happening? The Ministry of Justice even went as further to call for people's CVs. So you see that as a result of the action that is taken, there's always that reactive thing. But that's not what we want ultimately. For example, we want to deal with the Ministry of Labor and Employment Creation and say, what is it that you have substantively done with the budget that you've received from government for the past 4 years or the past 3 years? What is it that you can account for in terms of employment creation? One publication said that Ms. Nangula Wanja mentioned that we got 1.7 billion in our second quarter this year in terms of foreign direct investment. Where can we trace that 1.7 billion? Unemployment is still going. There is nothing of substance. So we must really remove this mockery of our state, of just dishing out figures. But we get down to the practicality of matters and say, this is what we want to address and this is how we are going to address it. Unfortunately, like I said before, there will always be people who, once in their position of power, and there's a dissenting voice, they would want to silence that and not want to cooperate. No matter how you are doing it better or differently, if a person doesn't like you, Toivo, just for being Mbaja, there's nothing you can do to change that. It doesn't matter whether you say, no, I'm Mbaja, but this is what I can bring to the table. And this is the program of action, policy framework, implementation plan. If the person doesn't like you, it's like you are backing.
That's it. In your 7 months of incarceration, I'm sure you also had a lot of time to reflect on many things. Is there anything that you would do differently, saying maybe I've landed myself in this situation because I approach things this way? If I had done it this way, maybe the outcome would have been different?
Toivo, there is no such thing as you playing pity, self-pity, or regret. What's done is done. And no matter how many times you try and replay to say that, man, maybe on the 21st of March I should have just stayed at home. Maybe I should have not even bothered to go and address the crowd to say that, you know what, our application has been dismissed. Unfortunately, we can't demonstrate today, even if it is our fundamental constitutional right. We have to postpone it for another day. So there's nothing that I regret.
Yeah.
Now, you asked an interesting question when you said, is this the only thing that we can do as activists?
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind, in other countries, you get terrorist organizations that start basically coming up.
Yeah.
Because why? The voice of activists is being descended. Because remember, the Atoivos them used to write petitions with the Reverend Michael Scott and the Clemens Kapoor, and you mention it. But when they realized that these petitions were not working, when they realized that the protests were not working, what was the next move? Yeah. They launched the liberation struggle, an armed liberation struggle. So basically is to say that if we are to fail at activism, then history might repeat itself, where we will also one day say, man, Dimbu, I've got Wagner's number. I think Prigovic has left some few guys in Niger that we can quickly contact. They can quickly supply us with that fishing vessel that will be coming to dock at Valves Bay. We pretend it's a container of fish, but meanwhile we've got AK-47s. Yeah. That is the point. If we say that is activism, that's the last resort that we have as activists. Yeah. So unfortunately, because we are law-abiding citizens, we unfortunately have to play within the confines of the law, and we have to do what is necessary. And unfortunately, we do not enjoy being in the sun. Yeah. But unfortunately, it is the only place that we can go and say that, please guys, can we listen to one another? Yeah. Can we try and solve our problems before they escalate to a different level? Because I'm sure the generation after us is not going to come and protest, because they are obviously going to say, but what has protest yield apart from activists being arrested day and night? Yeah. Let's try another alternative. And what's the other alternative? It's just an armed struggle.
And that is exactly my next question to Dimbu, to say that has it been working? Because you put your head on the chopping block in anticipation of certain outcomes. Do you think, what can you recall as a success in your activism journey? What have you changed?
Well, there has been a lot of policy changes on many issues that we went to fight for as activists generally. But is the essence of how the next person wants to really do it. Because otherwise, if it doesn't work today, would have come back for the same issue the next day. But of course, there are some that would take time. There are some that people say, yeah, we'll do it for the sake of doing it. But there's always that generation that comes in terms of advocating for issues, particularly when society sleeps on them. For example, the land question. You may be surprised there will be some young people that come up and say, but you know this thing about the land, particularly urban land, we want to deal with it this way. And we feel that if we go in all municipalities and we just take over, we do whatever we want to do, this is how it's going to happen. But we sit on specific ticking time bombs in society, but we tend to label these critical issues with the person's face who are in front of raising those issues. Now, when Michael was talking about the history, it reminded me, to say that, you see, when the Mandume them fought the Germans and the Portuguese, together with the Hendrik Wet boys and others, these guys, after that time, there was a period when in transition to the apartheid government, and the Atoivos came as a second generation of that. And when the Nauyomas and others came to say, no, this thing won't work, it reminded me of how the ANC was formed. Yeah. Because the ANC's founders were men and who were just writing letters to Britain. And when the Mandela then came, they said, no, these things of letters is not going to work. Therefore, let's take up the armed struggle. Yeah. So it is not different to what we are doing. To say, look, there is this thing called a republic now. There's a constitution. There are guidelines in which we must play within. In fact, in the preamble of our constitution, it recognizes our history and that we must never go back. That is why your rights to protest are protected. To say, because of where we are and how we got here, we never want our society to go back to where it come from. So it's trying to aspire for us to go ahead. But when you find an establishment that is contrary to that preamble of the country, what do you think society is going to lead to? There's a man who sits in prison today. We heard he was accused for terrorism and what. But I want to check, man, who has he trained, you know? Or we just bluffing so that we paint this person badly. But the acts of terror are real. The acts of terror can happen when diplomacy has failed. Yeah. Because diplomacy is the only thing that we have left. And if we are using the rule of law to fight political battles and settle political scores, where do you think my children are going to be? Because people, what they forget is that you can do this to Dimbulukeni. I have 2 children. But the trauma that my kids suffer, where do you think they're going to put that energy into? Yeah. We have people of the 1974, those detainees who are looking for reconciliation until this date. What do you think happens at the dinner table when the father is narrating his story during the war? And those kids and their grandchildren. So that trauma would one day come together and find synergy. So yeah, my father was dealt with in 74, this one is 89. Yeah, no, mine was dealt with from 2012. The SWAPO government has been brutal. No, mine here in 2013, they took all my father's assets. Today, I can't live the life I was supposed to do because my father planned the future for me. And SWAPO just cut it. That synergy, when it comes together, it's a ticking time bomb that society will not be
to blow
able
up.
To handle.
To blow up. In closing, Michael, you know, you divide opinion. There are people who think this is a boy who's just looking for political clout, might be ahead of 2024, or no, he was a businessman and he lost a lot of his things that have been attached, and he's seeking to bounce back in very unconventional ways. But you have also people that, as we witnessed this week, the people who marched in your name, huge numbers, more than 1,000 people, and there are those who were even threatening that if bail is not granted, if these guys are not acquitted, they were threatening to do actually very violent things in your name. How do you take the kind of support that you got, and what do you say to critics, briefly?
Toivo, the thing is, the moment you start to focus on critics, that simply means that you are derailing from your plans that you have, and you are derailing from the vision that you have for yourself and for your country. Now, to my critics, I've got absolutely nothing to say. I just need to thank them, because thanks to them, at least my name appears now and then in the SMS sections of some various newspapers to say that, Kabila Momo must advise his client that what he's doing is anarchy. At least then I'm able to smile in my cell and say, oh, okay, at least someone remembered me. Now, to those obviously who support me, obviously people are not stupid. People can see whether you are genuine or whether you are just doing things for gimmick or for clout, as you are stating it. Now, I must be on some serious drugs to be chasing clout to spend 7 months in prison, because that for me is, I've got how many followers? If I really want clout, then I can find it in another conventional way, as opposed to me harming myself or putting my life at risk. Because remember, as activists, it's not just about going to prison. You are creating serious enemies. People who control state machinery. At any time, you can be in a car accident, you will have a bullet wound in your head, but the autopsy will say that cause of death, car accident. So we are not doing this because we want to be popular or we want to be famous. We are doing this because we are serious about our country. We are serious about our generation, making sure that we do not let the ball fall on our watch. Because our children are going to come and ask us and say, but my father, when things started to decay, when the media started to be silenced, when activists started to be silenced, what were you doing? Were you just part of the TikTok generation and the Amapiano generation and the hubbly-bubbly generation of smokers, or what is it that you were doing as a parent?
Yeah.
So these things we are doing them so that at least we try and avoid our country finding itself like other countries have found themselves. And unfortunately, it comes at great sacrifice.
Yeah.
And we are not doing this because apparently of popularity or anything of the sort. We are doing it because we're genuinely concerned about our country and its states of affairs.
Yeah. Yeah, my director says, my producer says I can ask one more question, and so you have the last throw of the dice. Where to from here? Are we now, because this thing can be looked at two ways. One is to say, okay, we've been cleared, never again in my life would I try anything like this again. I've been cleared back to my usual everyday life. Others will say, okay, it means that I've been vindicated, that all along what I was doing is correct, and I have not broken any laws, and I'm doing it for my people, and I have to continue doing what I'm doing. Which of the two options for you?
Two things quickly. One, we have been into conversations, what we've had picked up in our security team has picked up several things. And of course, you will see that we are devising mechanisms to deal with those things. So to say never again on the front line, they must be on some high drug. So we will go back to the picketing lines. We shall go back to represent our people in different forms that we do. Michael was just speaking about this consolidation of things. And I want to give you a practical reality is that even in business that we do, people are sitting there and saying, how do we starve them? So that they stop going to protest and we starve the business and make sure that things are, then they come begging. You know, there's this thing, a notion that people always create in our head. To say, if you are not part of the ruling party, then things won't be flourishing for you. So that notion, we must be able to dispute it and fight it vigorously so that we succeed and prove that, yes, it can be done without the ruling party. That is the only thing why you find young people who take a good and brilliant, decisive way and go back to the ruling party because of this. When you try this economic struggle, it's a real one, it's not an easy one. You are now fighting the whites who control the means of production in the country. You are fighting the ruling party and the black elites that are closer to those minerals and they are friends to the white people. So when you are trying to break through that wall, you are always just told, no, just come back home and things will be better for you. And so you constantly fight. That is why we are fighting. Even the underlying factor of why we are fighting these fights as activists is to liberate each other economically and genuinely, that we don't depend on anybody for anything that we must do. And secondly, what I'm going to say, and it got other people in problems the last time we spoke, I said that in 2024, we have made it our priority mission to unplug SWAPO party from all areas of state power and governance. Why? Because if we unplug SWAPO from the police, we unplug SWAPO from the legal justice, we unplug SWAPO from prisons, we unplug SWAPO from central government, we would now sit with the reality of what SWAPO was doing with our money. SWAPO gets money through parliament and they don't do anything for the people of this country who put them into power. And so as many other political formations. So we are now on a channel to consolidate young people, irrespective of where we are. If we are going to unplug them from parliament, and it means putting more young people in parliament who are non-SWAPO, so be it. If we are unplugging them from local governance in 2025, so be it. Yeah. But we must make sure that in 2024, there's a new president who is non-SWAPO. We are going to make sure that parliament is filled with people who are non-SWAPO, so that there's a different thinking. If we are going to share power with SWAPO in 2024, so be it, but it's at government level, not at the head of state. So that is very clear as what we are going to do. So we are going to unplug them. We are not backing on those things. And the support must come from general Namibians to say, yes, we are fed up, we don't want to do anything with this animal called SWAPO because it has really not done so well in managing our tax affairs. And therefore, where to from here? The route is to unplug SWAPO.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you, gentlemen. Michael, you must eat and add a bit of weight. You, like I said, you know, you.
No. My words were prophetic.
Is the price of the.
My words were prophetic. It was freedom or death.
Freedom or death.
And unfortunately, fortunately for me, I've gotten my freedom.
Yeah, now go eat a bit and just add a bit of
weight.
No,
my wife will surely start cooking me.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Keep up.
Thank you, brother. That's Dimbulukeni Nauyoma and Michael Amushelelo speaking to us on the agenda this evening. Thank you for watching.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.